Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 Word and to the qualifying report for the Singapore Grand Prix. And once again, I have to say we were treated to a thrilling session, but let's jump straight into it and start by having a look at the pole sitter. It was Lewis Hamilton who took, I think it's fair to say, a surprise and unexpected pole position ahead of tomorrow's race with an absolutely stunning lap which left many, including Mercedes it would seem, well, stunned. He did it with a lap time of a 1:36.015 and ended the session just over 3/10 clear of the driver in second place on the grid and almost 7/10 up the road from teammate Valtteri Bottas. He will be starting on the Hypersoft tyres tomorrow, as will all of the top 10, as you'll see in just a moment. To be perfectly frank, it looked as though Mercedes were well off the pace in FP3 and that Ferrari were really odds on to take pole position today. But it was one hell of a lap from the Brit, and it certainly raised more than a few eyebrows. We'll have a look at some of the reaction from the top three a little bit later in the video, but let's have a look at the rest of the result from today's session. And it is Max Verstappen who will be starting alongside Lewis Hamilton on the front row. A brilliant lap from the Dutchman, and deserves all the credit he's getting for that. And again, just like Lewis Hamilton's pole position, pretty much unexpected when you base it on the pace we saw this morning. Sebastian Vettel could only manage third on the grid though, a full 6/10 off the pace of his title rival. But that is one tasty looking top three on the grid. We are in for a cracker tomorrow. Valtteri Bottas ended the session in fourth place, 7/10 off his teammate as I've already said, and Kimi Räikkönen only in fifth, almost 8/10 off the pace. It is worth noting that Ferrari did try to get through Q2 on the ultra-soft tyres, but it just didn't work. The pace wasn't there. Daniel Ricciardo looked very disappointed with P6, especially considering his teammate's pace. But he could be one to keep an eye on tomorrow. He does go well around Singapore. Sergio Perez, really solid session for him in 7th place. And he starts just ahead of Romain Grosjean, who is continuing his resurgence in that Haas. Great to see him on the pace this weekend. Esteban Ocon will start in 9th place for Force India, and Nico Hülkenberg rounds out the top 10. Fernando Alonso will be starting in 11th place tomorrow and of course gets free choice of tyre for the start, so that could be key come tomorrow's Grand Prix. But McLaren not looking too bad pace-wise this weekend, it's fair to say. Carlos Sainz is just behind him in 12th, with the Saubers of Charles Leclerc and Marcus Ericsson 13th and 14th. Pierre Gasly there in 15th place for Toro Rosso, just sneaking through Q1. But Kevin Magnussen there in P16, over a second off the pace of his teammate in the first qualifying session, and he was obviously bitterly disappointed after qualifying finished. Brendan Hartley ended the session in 17th place, with Stoffel Van Dorn once again beaten by his teammate. He's down in 18th, and of course it's the two Williams boys at the back, Sergei Sirotkin 19th and Lance Stroll in 20th. In terms of the strategy tomorrow now, Pirelli believe that a two-stop strategy is the way to go, but obviously that can see drivers easily getting stuck in traffic, and around a street circuit, track position is king. Degradation has been high so far this weekend, and to be honest, I think it will continue tomorrow. I can't see it suddenly cooling dramatically. It would be one hell of a swing in the weather if it did. And it's interesting to note as well that with regard to the tyre delta, the gap between the Hypersofts and the Ultrasofts is a full 1.6 seconds. A big gap. As I've already said, and as you saw there, the top 10 all start on those Hypersoft tyres, so won't be running too long into the Grand Prix in theory. Unless, of course, they try and do what they did in Monaco and just play follow the leader and nurse their cars to the end. But there is no doubt the teams will at least try for a one-stop. But what do you guys think will happen in terms of race strategy tomorrow? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. So let's have a look at some of the reaction and quotes from the top three after the session. Then Lewis Hamilton described his lap as magic and even said that he has no idea where it came from. I should point out as well, he was very fortunate to get through at the end of Q1. He was right on the bubble of being knocked out after Mercedes took a gamble to run both their drivers on the Ultrasofts. Ultimately, the gamble did pay off, but for me, I don't think it was worth taking. But at the same time, given all his locking up and whatnot in practice, he has got through a lot of tyres, so I completely understand why the team did it. But it was close. And the world champion said after the session, that was a hard qualifying session. That lap felt like magic. I don't know where it came from, but it all came together. Huge thank you to all the team. Everyone is working so hard to pull out extra bits. For that one lap, I managed to get it right. Honestly, I'm super overwhelmed. My heart is racing. I don't think there was a moment in the lap that was wide or any problems. It was just perfectly to the limit. It felt like one of the best laps I remember feeling. I was a bit nervous going into qualifying because I didn't think we had the pace. We were half a second behind these guys. We got into the last session and it was about pulling all the bits from free practice and trying to put it into a perfect puzzle. 99.9% of the time it doesn't go right. And that lap I didn't have any wheel spin, any snaps, it was pretty much maximum on every corner. And as I said at the start, it was a stunning lap. He deserves the credit for that. And it was completely unexpected when you consider just how far off the pace, as Lewis Hamilton alluded to there, Mercedes were throughout practice and how concerned they were about how they would perform this weekend as a whole. But with that top three and the way the rest of the grid is shaped up, we could be in for a belting race tomorrow. I can't wait. Another driver obviously delighted with the session's result was Max Verstappen. Once again, as I've already said, an absolutely brilliant lap from the Dutchman after what was a very challenging day. And his lap, given the deficit Red Bull looked to have to Ferrari and Mercedes after practice, was right up there with one of his best. But speaking after the session, a Red Bull driver said, "Honestly, this feels like a victory. The amount of problems I've had today and even in qualifying with the engine, just not having a smooth run, cutting in torque. To be second is unbelievable. It just shows that we have an amazing car. In FP3, just so many problems. While driving on my fast lap, it was just bogging down and qualifying was exactly the same story. We had to detune the engine and lost a bit of time there to try to make the drivability better, but it still didn't work like it should do. On my final run, I tried to push a bit more and I was another 0.2 up. Then I arrived at turn 16 and 17, and when I had to short shift again, the engine just cut out, so I had to abort. We just have to make sure that we get a clean start, and from there onwards, anything is possible. We do have to sort out the engine for tomorrow, but at least I'm very happy with the car." Red Bull race pace did look strong in practice, so if he can get the jump off the line, Max Verstappen could very well win this race tomorrow. One man who was understandably not happy at all after the session was Sebastian Vettel, only P3 in the end. And that was a huge surprise. Ferrari looked to have pole position in the bag. It felt like more of a case of which red car would it be, if that makes sense. I'm not saying that Mercedes didn't look like they could challenge. I'm not saying that Red Bull didn't look like they had some good pace. But it did appear as though Ferrari just had too much. But the German admitted the session was messy and accepts that they didn't get the best out of the car. The Ferrari man said the following: "It's not ideal. We wanted to get pole, we didn't. For us, it was a bit of a messy qualifying session. At the end, there was too much time missing. It's never ideal when you have mini races on the outlap, but there are a lot of cars around. I can't blame it on that. In the end, we had 2 laps, and they were both not good enough. I think we have a good race car. Qualifying wasn't as smooth as it should have been. Difficult to get a rhythm, difficult to get a feel for the car. The gap is quite big, but I am not worried about that. I don't think we got the most out of our car." As I've already said about the Red Bulls, Ferrari do look very strong when it comes to race pace, but with overtaking not easy, the German start is absolutely key tomorrow, as of course his strategy, but he doesn't want to be losing any ground off the line, and he surely needs to be jumping at least one of those ahead of him at the start of the Grand Prix. So that is the reaction from the top 3, but before I go, let's have a look at my ones to watch for tomorrow. First off, it's Fernando Alonso, obviously starts P11 and is the first of those to get a free choice of tyre tomorrow. He does historically go well around Singapore, as we've seen in the past, of course taking a couple of victories, but let's not say too much about 2008. But if you look at practice and the qualifying session as a whole, he has looked very solid this weekend and looks very racy as well. And we all know what Fernando can do when it comes to a Grand Prix. We've seen him start a lot further back than 11th and come back and score points this season. But another driver I'm going to put on the list of ones to watch is Kevin Magnussen. The Haas has clearly got some very good pace this weekend, and that has been demonstrated by Romain Grosjean. So I fully expect that he will be on the pace tomorrow, but he is well out of position. So, strategy will help out to a point, but he's going to have to do some overtaking. And as we saw last year, he's not afraid to do that around the streets of Singapore. So definitely keep an eye on him. That is it then for the Singapore Grand Prix qualifying report. And now that we know what the grid will look like tomorrow, who do you think will go on and take victory? What is your top 3? And which driver is your one to watch? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Now, of course, I will be back tomorrow at 12:40 PM for the race watch along. And don't forget to join us live shortly after the Grand Prix for our post-race reaction stream. In the meantime, though, you can follow me on social media. Links to Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and to Discord are all in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word. And until next time, goodbye.